What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Dynasty channel. We have rebranded. I'm going to be going by the name Dynasty Drip, trying to do something a little more football related and especially Dynasty centered, which has always been at the heart of my channel. Took a little mental health break. I was getting burned out doing all of this on my own for my first year, but I'm back for the Dynasty offseason and ready to get going with some sells for the 2025 Dynasty offseason. If you're new to the channel, if you are returning, I would love any sort of love in the comments, man. All of that means so much to me and it really helps drive me to keep going. But let's go with our first player for today, and I'm going to suggest selling Garrett Wilson. Now, this is a very tough one for me because usually I am very talent driven when it comes to Dynasty, and I do think Garrett Wilson is a very talented player. I just don't think it's really been translating. Now, mostly it is due to his situation. You know, he had some rough quarterback play, then he finally gets Aaron Rodgers. He goes down for a season. Last year, it's looking like a good season for Garrett Wilson. Devontae Adams comes in. Now, it's not all his fault. But I don't know, with all the rumors I'm hearing this offseason, I don't really know if the Jets are going to be adding a quarterback. I've heard some Tyrod Taylor is just going to be the starter rumors, and it's just enough to scare me off when I think you could maybe tear down from Garrett Wilson to get another good young wide receiver and something on top of that. My first trade idea for today is going to be to tear down from Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go get Jordan Addison, someone who I really like as a talent as well. Now, he's obviously going to be the number 2 on that team, but Kevin O'Connell is the coach. Jordan Addison, a first-round pick. He is a high-scoring touchdown player. He's done it in back-to-back years. Now, there may be some variance in that, but I think he's just a very good player, and he's either going to stay with the Vikings or after his first contract is up, I think Jordan Addison could get another good contract with another team. He's just a very solid NFL wide receiver. And if I could get Isaiah Likely on top of Jordan Addison, someone who I think could be a tight end 1 in this league, whether it's as early as this year or if he moves on from Baltimore or Baltimore moves on from Mark Andrews, I like all of those options. A second idea here for Garrett Wilson is a similar trade where can I tear down to DJ Moore, a guy who could be the number 1 wide receiver on that Ben Johnson Chicago Bears offense. And can I get 2-3 on top of that to pick up a potential top 5 to 7 running back in this draft class, which looks really deep. And I'm going to come away with 2 assets and basically not lose any points in my lineup when it comes to Garrett Wilson this year if he is going to have another down year when it comes to the talent at the quarterback position. Second player, I think I'm selling this offseason, and I love this guy as well, but it's going to be another Jet, and that's going to be Breece Hall. Breece Hall has been pretty up and down. He had an injury, but he's had some monster games. But same thing for me here is this situation is just ongoing, and I don't really know if I can trust the Jets to just totally fix it. I love Breece Hall, but it could be a Saquon Barkley situation, right, where Barkley, when he was on the Giants, was a great talent, but he wasn't producing as much as you wanted, and you really had to wait for him to leave to get those numbers. Now, if you want to hold out and think Breece Hall is finally going to get a quarterback or the right situation, I don't blame you, but my trade idea here is can I go get 1-4, which is saying it's an even trade on KTC, and why I like 1-4 here is I think I'm going to get my pick of potentially the RB2, RB3 of this class. I'm going to get a pick my player who's also going to be a very talented running back, and I'm going to pick my landing spot of where this guy goes. I get to pick my player on my team. I think I would just feel more comfortable with that than Breece Hall at this point. The next trade I'm going to do is Breece Hall. Can I go get A.J. Brown, whose value is a little suppressed right now, even though he's coming off the Super Bowl? Just so many weapons in Philly. I think people are just a little concerned. A.J. Brown, technically a year older, still only 27, gonna be 28. He's wide receiver 14, and I just think I got 3 to 5 more years of A.J. Brown still. This dude's an absolute monster. And if I want to get out of the Breece Hall game and into the wide receiver, more stable asset game, I think A.J. Brown is a good get for this situation. Next one I'm looking to trade is going to be a young ascending wide receiver, and that's going to be Jameson Williams. I like Jameson Williams. At the price right now, wide receiver 28, they're losing Ben Johnson. He was very boom-busty even as an asset in a Ben Johnson offense. Let's say maybe they don't get worse, but I really don't see their offense getting any better losing Ben Johnson. And even then, I just think there's better assets that I can invest in than Jameson Williams. My suggestion here is, can I go get Dak Prescott, whether it's to bench him and trade him, whether I need a starting quarterback. I think Dak Prescott is a little undervalued right now. Still has the big deal there. Still has CeeDee Lamb. They're probably going to add something this offseason. And if not, even then, Dak Prescott's been a top 15 quarterback and high as almost top 5 in his career. So I still think Dak Prescott has some value. And I'd be willing to pivot from Jameson Williams to add a more stable asset onto my roster this offseason. Here's the wildcard trade of the episode. I don't know if it's a sell, because in this hypothetical situation, I'm just selling an early third. But I want to move down from the early third, and I want to pick up Daniel Jones in a late fourth. Now, for me, third and fourth round picks, there's really not too much data proving that you have any higher chance of hitting in the third round than the fourth round. If you do, it's really only going to be a couple percentage points. That is done through some articles I've read in the past and just general experience of my own self playing Dynasty for 10 years. I've had a bunch of third round picks, I've had a bunch of fourth round picks, and I really don't see much of a difference. Now, yes, would I prefer 3-1 to a late fourth? Of course, but I just don't really think the numbers bear that out over a large sample size. Daniel Jones is an interesting experiment. I just think he's gotten out of a terrible situation. Maybe he does have some talent, and even if it's a 10-15% chance that he turns his career around a la Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, I think it's a risk that I am willing to take, and it could just pay off and get you a future first round pick or something if it pays off. If not, to me, I'm really only losing a couple percentage points of hit rate in my eyes, tearing down from the third to the fourth round in a dynasty draft, just the way that I personally view it. I'm not saying you have to view it that way as well. But for me, that is kind of how I look at third and fourth round picks. I'm usually pretty down to move down and pick up some assets that I like. Last two trades of the video, they're both going to be sells. And they're both going to be selling assets for a 2027 late first, a class I would love to get some more capital in, on guys who I am just pretty neutral on. First one's going to be Keon Coleman. I think he has some talent, but with all the weapons there in Buffalo, Shakir getting the deal, Kincaid having a down season, still has potential to grow into a role, I think. I'd be happy to just take the future first for Keon Coleman and get him off my roster. Now, with that future first, I can either hold it and wait for it to grow into something in 2027, or if I need to move that pick in the middle of the season to go get a win now piece, I now have some additional ammunition to do that, something I always really like to pay attention to if I'm going to be a contender. Not only do I want to have players on my roster to win me games, I want to have just enough ammo that if I need to go get a Derrick Henry in the middle of the season to push my team over the top, I have the assets to do so. Another one's going to be a quarterback, and this is one I just don't want to play the Anthony Richardson